Good morning, everybody. Some damage being done here, as expected. Was questionable at a points yesterday. Certainly looked like things were going to go up. Um, yeah, so they cleared a little of this resistance here. Maybe they were going to go up, and nope. Things come back down again. Uh, Stayed in the middle of the big nasty bar, downside there. And so these patterns produce what we think is going to happen in the future. So far, things are playing out based on historical norms, which are, look at that, is deep move down like that, the gap down, and typically things come down to, when they make the turn, well, they could go back up. It looks like it's going to be heading down here eventually, so you can see where it is right now. It's on what we call minor support in the low of that red bar. So I'm just looking at the weekly chart here. It's at the bottom of last week's range. Of course, that's the that red bar that pokes down there, right there. And so we'll see if that holds. And it's on this pivot. I can just draw it there, right on that pivot right there. And yeah, so look, factory work as we call it in every MT live, which we're doing today. Don't miss that at 12 o'clock. It'll be another good one. So the factory work at this point is it's got a relatively large gap down onto support. There's no signs of stabilization as of yet. It was right there in pre-market, and it's failed. The next leg down with momentum. That was part of our discussion we had Monday. Momentum moves and retracements and lower lows and slowing momentum. So it was building pivots. And I don't know if that's a bad tick. I suspect it could be. Um, so a little stabilization there on that. Where is that relative? See, that wasn't all the way up. And you know what? So we have, let's just call it the ideal scenarios. And we can't get trapped into the ideal scenario because it doesn't always happen that way. But you can see the cursor on the hourly chart. It's in the middle of that support. It's like, okay, that seems close enough for government work, which is sloppy, of course. Um, but sometimes it comes all the way down to where it's marked as a pivot low. And that's where it is. And it's starting to bounce from there. But, excuse me, with this kind of downside momentum, and just refresh our conversation on Monday in the green room, and the part I did yesterday there, which took a long time. But so, what are our expectations here, just based on this 5 minute chart? Is that it's going to go lower, and that the distance between the lows will show us a slowing in momentum, and maybe it'll begin to turn. So maybe it just pokes below that, and it does, or it could retrace all the way back up. Now this is pre-market, so that's you're looking at the futures as things open or this. We'll see how it plays out. But anyway, the conversation was what would change our opinion from this to go lower? A deep retracement. We'll see if that happens or not. Right now, things are in play while they're stabilizing here. They're likely to continue to go down, test that major support. And if things get uglier and you see what's happening to more of these leading stocks that led the way up getting beat up here, that 50 MA is lined up with that major support. So that's going to be a really strong reference point, and it would be like a measured move. And someone will say, what's a measured move? Well, you get a pullback like this that puts the uptrend in question. The turn begins and it fails, and you just measure from here to here and push it. Just I can show you whatever. Uh, you just go like this, and I bet you that line is white. Why the hell would it not? Hold on a second. I'm still on this other machine. Anyway, I don't have the time to do it, but it just look, you just go like this and get that line. If I could do it here, I would drag it down about the same thing and it would project the low, which lines up with that support and that unfilled gap. So we come up with scenarios and we see what plays out in real time. That's what we do. All right. Much of a bounce there. SPX, I don't have to double check. Things move around a little bit. Those numbers yesterday I told you were ridiculous. They never even got close. I mean, you could have went a lot closer because you remember then it was up here and it was down there. I think it was here. It was ridiculous. So the downside today is ridiculous, that number. And let's just see where it's at right now. And so what I do here is really simple. I just look at where is there enough premium to do, say, 20 wide. That's ridiculous. Right? And so 40. Oh, wow, it came up a lot. That's updating. 40. So maybe not so ridiculous now. Let's see. Western numbers are changing. Let's do 45. 4. 440 maybe. 45 or 40. We'll see as it moves, if it continues to move down. So now on major support, if it gets down there, I don't think it's getting down there today. It's right here. It would have to go another equally distance down there. I don't think that's within the cards, and that's all the trade is. I think this or I think that based on the information that we use. 55. Changed a lot. And now we're back to, remember the last few weeks, where is it right now and how far are the strikes? And we're about halfway kind of from either one. So which way is it unlikely to go? Well, it's going to be on support, right? And it's on minor support and it's on this support, the bottom of that bar, which we looked at on the hourly chart. So it's likely to stabilize and to go all the way down there. Whether it does or not, there's going to be a lot of buyers. All we're looking at is will it close down there? Highly unlikely. All right. These they changed the symbols months ago, which I never changed on this computer. The Dow, that was part of our conversation at the beginning of the week, that these kind of patterns getting extended, where would we believe that they're going to be buyable? Right? So where is the likely place that a buyable event would occur? Factory work, look to the left. Minor support. There's very little support there. There's a whole number of 40,000. The 20 MA will come up. So we're not there yet. And the diamonds, the DIAs don't really show us pre-market much, but we can look at the futures and they're down a bit, not much, holding up relatively well. So showing some relative strength, and they should after a move like that. Russell, what happened to my voice? I'll tell you later. I'm a little tired. So this went up very nicely, the last couple of days, but again, the same analysis extended. Now, what is it going to do? Right, it's down a little bit. It's not a big deal compared to, we're looking at, no cold. Later, and maybe at lunchtime, I'll tell you the story, in the room. All right, so minor support. We'll see where this is. Odds are it's going to continue to show relative strength, and that's all good. So when prices get extended like that and create a void, they can correct down towards support and form a buy setup. This formed a reversal, like some other things did that showed strength. Now they're in question. Does it go choppy into a sideways trading range for a while? Does this, go lower? So we look at what has been showing strength, what held it up yesterday. KRE, regional banks, they still look great. Extended could become more extended, and this was like a correction bar right there. Now, where are they at? They're gapping down a bit, no real damage done, still looks pretty darn good. XPI, where's that? Gapping down a bit. So when we look for our trade setups based on our trading plans, we look for what's my ideal scenario setup. And the ideal scenario would have been for this to just come down, not rather than to stabilize, but it could do a measured move kind of thing. We'll see where it ends up at the end of the day. Applying the same thing to a higher time frame, middle of the bar, right there on XBI. And it puts it, whatever, we just put this, instead of guessing, we just put it right there, right in the unfilled gap and rising 20 MA. Beautiful. No significant damage done to the weekly time frame. And if it was to dip down there intraday, which I don't know what happened today, tomorrow, whatever, you could be down there with that reference point on your 5-minute chart or whatever time frame you use, looking for bottoming patterns for the turn. And you might. So we used to do a webinar. Actually, Paul used to. That was his thing in the old company. Paul was a great moderator there. And he used to do a thing called, and everything's based on, the stuff we put together, but he coined it being the tail, right? Becoming the tail, something like that. And that's the essence of being the tail, meaning you're going to buy somewhere that you perceive to be the bottom of the tail. If it turns into a bottoming tail bar, who the hell knows? The thing is, this isn't an uptrend. This is bullish. Prices come down to support. Set your alert. Goes down there. Go down to your intraday time frame and start looking for bottoming action. Qs. Right? This is where the damage is being done. Right? 50 MA, no support to the left. So when I start thinking about, could this be a measured move, what we just said here? Because there's the stabilization. Again, who the hell knows if this is going to happen, but I'm just kind of eyeballing this thing, and it kind of puts it down here. And based on what Google is doing and Meta and Netflix and the others, is that a possibility? Of course it is. And now we're going to see how things play out today with those. But clearly it stabilized on support, and now it's failed, and it should go down to the next reference point. And the 50 MA is a reference point, but it's not lined up with anything. Well, I wouldn't count on it. And there's a momentum move. Factory work says lower low, slowing momentum, or a deep retracement. So you might say, well, what if it's a deep retracement? Oh, go ahead and buy it and see if it goes up here to this minor resistance or not. Is that part of your trading plan? Do you want to do that trade based on this climactic move on the 5-minute chart? Stop down below here. See what happens. Crude oil. We talked about this crazy move. Down, up, back down again. This market has been full of craziness. Bonds are up here a little bit, which means interest rates are down a little bit, yet the markets are down. So little disconnect as far as the intermarket relationships and what it's been. Bitcoin, just more crazy moves, breakdown, back up again. It's in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know about options on Bitcoin, on these futures. The spreads could be ridiculous, but just pointing out patterns like this especially did great if it's zero DTE. Um, but even, for a few days, an iron condor, those are the kind of patterns that play out well for iron condors, support, resistance, middle of the range, time to expiration, so on and so forth. Silver's not doing anything, just a big mess on some support. So not much going on there. And yeah, so that's it. Let's see what today brings. Just pointing out this intraday pattern. So these are the kind of discussions we have in the green room about different things like that. So while this is on support and you've got 3 days of stabilization and you've got a 60-minute chart with a base, if it gets above here, short-term trade could be a day or two, right? Or definitely intraday. See if it gets above. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Hey, Greg, talking about Bitcoin options. Do you remember years ago, I I was giving some way out of the money option trades on options on the BTC.
I remember.
All right, it says my screen is loading. All right, there it goes. So my point is we stopped posting those because to my knowledge, no US broker allowed option trading, including TOS. I've tried many times.
The margin was crazy, if I remember.
No. It has nothing to do with margin. And they just don't allow it. I found three brokers, but they're, you know, unreliable, not SEC registered over in Europe somewhere. So I ain't sending money over there. But my question is for everybody else, if you know of any ETF fund that has options, please tell me. I'd love to sell options on um, not a stock ETF, but the the Bitcoin ETF or Ethereum ETF, whatever. All right, alarms here. I had an alarm on well go off, but this tick right here, but it looks like that was a bad tick. We're long this, beautiful breakout, easy to manage so far. Um, we were selling into this strength, and then we've had very light inventory ever since. We did a great job in the green room yesterday talking about not only our afternoon bias was to the downside, but also swing short. So, that's working out. I had an AMAT alarm. We have a half a lot of a put spread. All right, well, cool. I'll look into that. All right, thanks, Alex. Um, all right, yeah, I'll look into that. All right, so we have just a half lot left. This was lagging yesterday, but we'll still have an open profit, so that's fine. PMT, I had an alarm just go off for some reason, but no interest. Let's go right to earnings. Obviously the two big ones here. I looked at the premium to do a condor into this because I did not have a directional bias, but I was looking at the 180s and there wasn't enough juice. The 180s and I don't know, 340s, whatever the heck it was. So even with this gap down, it would have been fine. But in terms of a new trade, that's a bearish gap from the big old rectangle pattern. So let's definitely look to sell call spreads on that. Google, we said, was a sell setup. 174. I have no idea what's going to happen at the open here. Our buyer's going to step up. Our buyer's going to keep selling. Is it going to go sideways for 30 minutes and attempt to bounce and fail and then take out a 30-minute low, which is always my preference for if I'm trading in the same direction of the gap? EQT, big mess. Visa 254. That's an ugly gap with a void. It's ugly. That's the same thing. Let's see what it does in the first 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes is so key to trading gaps because sure we can look at a liquid pre-market, but the first 30 minutes tells us a lot. Gap up, no pattern, it's range bound. That would be a condor idea for Friday. 108.50, 30-minute high, maybe put spread idea. STX was a bullish pattern. I was looking at 95s yesterday, but there was no juice. But that's a long watch. I'll put that in another window. STX is bullish. EMPH, I think this is a solar stock. Oh, I already looked at that one. It's a duplicate. And STX is a duplicate. Cough. I mean, so many of these banks look similar, just explosive moves. We were talking about buy setups here in the middle of no man's land and the danger of those failing and making a newer low, but this is earnings. There's no pattern. It's potential bottoming pattern, but it would have to get over yesterday's high. If these have no change, I'm just going to jump right over them. All right, Matador, I see one print up here, but it's not liquid. This is interesting if it is gapping up and taking out a 30-minute high. I don't need Google here. Let me put Matador there. BDN. Sam, bullish monthly. Alex's favorite trading time frame. So that looks good, all time frames. But tie is a beautiful pattern, which is, we call this like a failed M top. Momentum move down, up, you're watching for a reversal, but this is bullish price action. If this were opening flattish, I'd say buy 5-minute high. That's a beautiful pattern, beautiful 15-minute chart, but gaps messing it up. This is a sloppy buy setup, and it's gapping down. So that's my alarm went off. No interest. 114, ugly gap down, but big. Charlie Bravo, man, came down. On buy setups, we like them to come in a controlled manner, reverse 40%-ish area. Weatherford, right here to prior high. So Sam, this is your kind of breakout trade after it goes up 5 bars. Kidding. Well, unfortunately, I might not be kidding. They were very bullish in their earnings. I don't see a gap, but that's a bullish continuation right there. Aurora, no prints. This, it's up a lot. No, we can find better. No prints. Package up a lot. All right, all these there's no prints, so I'm just gonna skip over them. I don't see any prints. Hey, good morning. Okay, this is not bad. It's not great, but I have an alarm up here, 65.10-ish. It's a buy setup. If it opens flat, it could be a good 30-minute high idea. This one's up too much, no interest. Don, this is a good candidate. Hypothetically, if it were to gap up $10 for gap and crap. Look at this momentum move up, 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 far from the 20. Now, if you want to gap up $10 on earnings, whereas this one is not. This is, yes, it's far from the 20, but this is bullish price action. This is a continuation pattern. So could let's say this were to gap up, I could say 10%. So, $3.50 or more. Could it be a day trade gap and crap? Absolutely. But this is a beast. No prints. I'm gonna skip over you. See another failed buy setup here. $80. But if it were to come roaring back and fill that gap, I'm gonna set an alarm at 82, which seems unlikely. But I have nothing to lose. Am I setting an alarm? Tomo. Wow, I wonder what made that thing gap like that into earnings. 540 in the middle of the range, no pattern. That's of interest. Knee 73.40. Put spread idea, 30-minute high. T, Mr. T, gapping over yesterday's high. So it's gapping over a red bar. But that's a total mess. If this were opening flat, I'd say 30-minute high candidate, but gapping down, so a mess. FI gapping up. No, it's up a lot. Maybe 30-minute high. Gulf Delta, the military was rocking yesterday. 285. I got no bias there. It's a mess. Alex, remember we were watching this as a potential short, but then earnings. So now it's gapping under that. So that's a 30-minute low. Watch. I'll put that in a window. APH. AGP. Yeah, that's the one we talked about. Santanders and ADR. If that's your style, it could be a 30-minute high day trade. Rock, no prints. Tell 149, gap in the support. No pattern. CME flat, no pattern. Jeb 166, no pattern. Just because I say no pattern now doesn't mean it might not develop into one, but I got enough to watch. All right, 197. So 30-minute high on Odafel could be an idea. I just had an alarm on WAB go off for some reason. Why did I have an alarm there? No idea. Otis, my man, no pattern. Oh, there's WAB. FTV. Now, if this were opening flat, I would say over yesterday's high, but look at this nasty gap. Wow. Tech, nothing, unless it gets over yesterday's high, then it would be interesting. RCI, yesterday's high, bottoming pattern maybe. LII, bearish gap, calls for it if there's any juice at 570, which I doubt, that's far away. Checkpoint, bullish, there you go, that's a bullish gap, that's not too excessive. That'd be a 30-minute higher. Here, I don't need pack here. Let's put checkpoint there, looks good. TDY, no prints. So he must still be at the donut shop. And that's all the earnings. Um, this is on Sam, your list. I have an alarm. This is your list. I have an alarm. My buddy gave me Workhorse as a potential bottom fisher. So Greg, this is an example of what you said, be the tail on a larger time frame. So hypothetically, if we were to buy here and it, rocked up to 250, then we're in the bottom of the tail on a weekly chart. Let me set an alarm 169, 168. Crowd I've been watching ever since. Hey, now it's a lot better. This is a Climo. We did 0 DTE Climos on this last Friday. And then it continued, but look at this volume. That's a textbook Climo right there. Let me check the juice bar. This would, if this just chops sideways, this will be an ideal 30-minute high. Well, or actually yesterday's high, but I don't want it to trigger until after 10 a.m. Ah, NBR alarm. Remember I said set an alarm at 82? No, different. Yeah, I did. Remember I saw it pre-market here at 80? And I set an alarm at 82? Look what happened. It gapped over yesterday's high. So, so the next step would be to see if it can give us a 5-minute setup without selling off too much. All right, let's see, this Matador is moving. So how far away can we get in this crowd? The 250s have juice, $22 lower. All right, so I will put NBR in my other computer. Look at this checkpoint moving. That was a nice gap I mentioned. See? So yeah, I said the gap was not excessive. Look at it blasting. I don't chase. But that, you see how it worked. That was a nice gap. Texan gave it up. Sure did. Sure did, Patrick. All right, what's this Matador doing? Nah, I like the gap's too big. I like this NBR better, but now it's coming in a little hard. But I'll watch it. STX, still slopping around, put spread idea if there's any juice. APH, no real interest now. All right, our ABAP, I set 5-minute low on our put spread. So yeah, it's 9:35, so we can do 5-minute low now. 2:16:45. We have the 210-205, so we should definitely still have an open profit. $59. Yeah, so we're right at break even right here. Well, 56. So that's all right. I'll just move it 5-minute low because we'll still have a gain because of the gain we made it 2 days ago. There it just hit. All right. All right. So it just hit the 5-minute low. So we're out. All right. So we're out break even on half and we made money on half. So we are now flat again in the weekly options trader. The advisory 1, 2, 3, only 6 positions, which is very low for us. SRE. Yeah, I guess I'm not fighting the market though. I mean, the pattern's okay, but on IWM, relative strength again, diamonds a little bit, but I'm not that